Good morning, fish tankers. Cheers. Don't worry, this isn't the latest cannabis-infused health drink, although it does look like that, the color. This is a glass of Java moss that I have trimmed down in one of my aquariums. Now, mosses are all the range these days. You find them in aquascaping. They really put them on the hardscape in a very creative and nice way. We've got flame moss, we've got weeping moss, we've got Christmas moss. But this year, Java moss is the most undemanding, and it's a plant that's been in the aquarium trade forever, and it's a real easy plant. Would you like to find out more about how useful this plant actually is and how easy it is to grow this moss? Stick around. The first thing with Java moss is you can attach them to some hardscape, or you can just simply leave them to sort of float around or drift around on the tank bottom. They'll usually find a place where they'll attach. But as you can see, there's some remnants of Java moss here. You can still see there's some fishing line tied there that I neglected to take off. Now, I had Java moss on this pleco cave, let's call it that. And it was a nice spawning place for my emperor tetras. As you know, one of them grew up. But it didn't really do well. It just survived, because this is not a spot where there's a lot of light. If I zoom out, you can see there's a lot of shady spots where it's a good spot for anubias. Some of it remained. If I can zoom in on that driftwood over there, we just can adjust the camera a little bit. You can see there, some of it remained, and some of it, even there, you can see a spot that's grown quite well or not well, but it survived there in the driftwood, and it sort of spreads in a stringy kind of way. But they are not high light plants, but they do want more light than what they have here in this particular spot. That was a little bit too low light for them. They survive, but they don't thrive. So yeah, right there in the corner of a tank, we've got a clump of Java moss that is doing much better. And it is attached to a piece of driftwood underneath it that you can hardly see. And I've just trimmed it actually, because it was overgrowing that cryptocorini to the left of it. You see some baby marrow slices. I've just fed the Otocinclus and a couple of Siamese algae eaters. But it grows much better here. And what is the difference? It is underneath the light. The light is right above it. It's not close to the surface. They don't grow very well when they're close to the surface, right underneath the light. But there's an unobstructed flow of light downwards to it. So it's got a decent amount of light. They're low light plants or low light moss, but they don't want to be completely in the shade. So the light makes a difference and makes it grow. Now, as far as water parameters are concerned, I've had these grow in soft water and slightly harder water. This is still sort of softish water at 6 degrees KH carbonate hardness, and the hardness, the general hardness, is around about the 10 or 11, 12. I'm not sure, but it's not hard water. It's more or less close to sort of in the middle kind of tank. But the water is not a big deal. It grows in all types of water, I've found, but it wants a decent amount of light. And it wants a bit of stocking density. If there's enough fish there pooping in the water, it feeds off that. You can add a little bit of water column fertilization there, but I find that that's not really crucial. It's very lean fertilization in these tanks, but a bit of decent light. And I find they're better when they are attached to a piece of driftwood or rock, because you can just chuck them in the tank or make them float around. A lot of empty bottom tanks have got them. We also know they're very useful for fry. A lot of little fry tanks. You can look in Aquarium Co-op, Master Breeder Dean, he's got them in his fry tanks, because they do attract a lot of microscopic critters. Infusoria likes to grow among that, and that feeds a little baby fish, and you also get fish spawning in it. So it's a very useful plant or moss to have, and it's definitely tougher than flame moss. I didn't have great success with that. Haven't actually ever tried Christmas moss, but I think those mosses, maybe they like CO2 a little bit more, but this is a very low tech moss. So that is the optimum position to put your Java moss in that I have found. Okay guys, just to give you a quick demonstration of how to put the Java moss on a piece of driftwood. You can just leave them in the substrate or floating around. You don't even have to attach it. But what I like to do is I like to attach them with some aquascapers line. It's a bit on the expensive side. You can also use that kind of line that you use to tie your bait to your hook when you're fishing. But I like the stuff. It's fairly unobtrusive and it sticks. You just wind it around, and I try to keep it as close to the driftwood as possible. I prefer this to sticking it with super glue because there's always pieces of a moss coming loose. It doesn't work so well for me. If you have the right sort of texture on the driftwood, you can also just wedge it like I like to do. Just going to get some scissors here quickly. Here we are. Just to cut that line, you can't just, it's quite strong. You can't just pull it away with your fingers. And there we have it. Voila. So here we are guys. I'm going to put this little piece of driftwood with a Java moss right there in the corner. There's a spot for it. There's enough light for it. And we'll see how this one comes on. But that's how I like to do it. I like to tie them to that piece of driftwood. If it's not the right spot, I can always move it. But we'll see how the little guy does there. And as I've said, all they need is a bit of light. They're not fussy in terms of water requirements. They all like a bit of water column fertilization, but nothing special. And that's it. So guys, if you've liked this video, if you found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. And until we see each other again, please keep on taking good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.